And recording.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us this evening. So tonight we have a Matrix has again partnered with us to. Oh, sorry, I have the sound going on in my background. So I heard overlapping voices. So Matrix has partnered with us again to bring more content. This evening we have a virtual resume workshop. So I'll introduce BDPA a little bit. So BDPA is a community membership organization focused on technology. So our motto is from the classroom to the boardroom. So kind of more on exposing technology in different, I guess, ways of professional development to the community. So we have our STEM program that is currently running. It's running till about, I think, August, where we have students from K through 12 coming in and getting exposed to STEM and computer science concepts. We have a college angle to that as well. And then we have our professional angle, which is like the content that we're bringing here this evening with ways to kind of, I guess, further grow yourself. So we have our sessions, for most part, the third Wednesday each month. I'll post links to our content for ways to stay involved. And I think that's about it. So another, I guess maybe one last thing is that, again, I want to thank Matrix for being one of our major sponsors and bringing content this year. So please be on the lookout for more content that we have coming up. And I think I'll give it, I'm not sure what the handoff was for, oh, Victor joined.
There it is.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add, Victor?
So no, I'm sure you covered it all. This is the amazing times of COVID. I had to rush out and grab a young one from daycare, but excited that you all were able to jump right into the process. Really appreciate the speakers that we have with us today. I'm sure it's going to be a really enriching discussion. And then for those that we may not have touched on it just yet with, there will be an opportunity for our participants during this call to step up, raise their hand, and share their resume with the group and get some real-time feedback. So I'll place that out there, in the beginning, so you can battle with your inner self to say whether or not you want to be one of those volunteers. I encourage you to step on out and do it. It will be very valuable for you, considering those that we have on the line today that are experts in this field that can help you just better represent yourself. So I'll place that out there right now, but I am super excited to hear the discussion, hear the panel go forth. So with that, first I'll hand it over to John just to give any comments on behalf of Matrix, and then push us forward from there.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Thanks for having us. Appreciate the partnership so much. So we're at the beginning part here of another 3-part series. Victor and Shanika and Atobra and we talked about it's nice to do things in like a 3-part type of series. So this is step 1, the resume workshop. Step 2 is optimizing your LinkedIn profile. And then step 3 is effective interviewing. So 1, 2, 3, jobs coming, right? so anyways, tonight's on working on resumes. I think what I'll do is just let each of the panel just introduce themselves. So this is sort of unscripted, so I'm kind of putting them on the spot here, but all of them can think pretty quickly on their feet. But how about we give, each of you, can you do a 30-second, where are you from? How long have you been in recruiting? What do you like about it? Maybe just a little something about yourself before we get started. Brandon, you want to You want to go?
Yeah, I had a feeling you were gonna choose me first. So, my name is Brandon Merrill. I've been in recruiting going on a decade now. I sit in our Phoenix, Arizona office, and I'm really glad to be here with you guys today. I think we're going to be able to share a lot of good tips that will help you guys get your resumes in tip-top shape. So thanks, John.
Awesome. Susie, you want to go next?
Yeah, my name is Susie and I sit in the Atlanta branch, and I'm a recruiting manager and also involved in production. So I balance my time on both sides and have been with Matrix on and off for 6 years. I recently came back about a year and a half ago, and I couldn't be happier since.
Susie's our recruiting manager in Atlanta. So she's kind of she's like the to-do, the big shot in Atlanta for us.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah, so we're happy to have you here tonight. So Brian.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brian Easter. I'm actually based in Chicago. I obviously didn't get the Matrix, the emails for the Matrix background, so I'm sorry about that. I'll be working on that. I've been in recruiting for just about 15 years now, and I've been with Matrix for 5 years. So I'm excited to be here. I'm very familiar with BDPA and glad to help out, and looking forward to a lively and a good exchange.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So that's our Matrix team here from our recruiting organization. Victor and I also wanted to we thought it would be more effective to also have a client's perspective. So I asked my longtime friend here, Ed Salako from Cox Automotive, to join us tonight as well. So Ed, would you introduce yourself?
Be happy to. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to consider myself kind of Matrix family, even though I work for Cox Automotive. So John, good friend of mine. I'm a good friend of his, rather. And he actually brought me into Cox going back 15 years. So just to put some dates on ourselves, but work on the delivery management side, mainly around CRM systems, and over the past 15 years or so participated in every aspect of onboarding and reading a lot of resumes right up until this last Tuesday, where we finished a round of hiring. And this is fresh in my mind as well. Anecdotally had a VP who took a look at my resume recently and said, yeah, your resume needs help. So happy to participate in this conversation, share what I know, and learn some things from the group.
Well, thanks, Ed. We're happy to have you here. And so again, we'll kick off with, I'm going to ask Brandon, Susie, and Brian to talk about, give us their top 3 tips and things to consider to make your resume the most that it can be. Again, I just want to reemphasize what Victor said. When we get through these top 3, we'd love to. We've got a couple of resumes that we can show as examples of before and after transformation example. But it would be fun if someone is willing and able to share your resume and let us do that on the fly. So again, these 3 can think pretty quickly on their feet. So well, let's start. I mean, when I think about resumes, I think about our attention span now that we all have. It's so short. I mean, it really is just so short. I mean, 7 seconds is what you regularly read a hiring manager is going to give you when they open up your resume, and you gotta hold their attention within those 7 seconds. So some things have to be right with your resume to do that. So Brandon, do you wanna start off and kind of talk about like the 3 things that you think are kind of key with resumes?
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of my number one things that I advise people to, and this is something that I think everyone can kind of miss or maybe be even a little embarrassed about, but resume gaps or filling in the spaces between your last professional employment. I think things happen in this day and age all the time where you may miss work, you may take care of a family member, you can go through anything and get injured. A lot of things happen. And when I'm looking at a resume, one of the first things I'm noticing is how consistent this person is with their background, with their experience. Have you had the opportunity to stay somewhere and learn? Are you able to be part of a system for a period of time? And when things change, I think we often forget to fill in that space, and employers will make their own assumptions, and you don't really want to give them the opportunity to do that. So that's a huge thing for me when I'm looking through resumes. I want to know if something happened, what happened, how'd you keep yourself current? If you did things to keep yourself current in technology, I want to know about those things. And I think they should be on the resume to save everybody a lot of time and take the guesswork out of the employer. Don't give them the opportunity to make an explanation for you. Secondly, it's really important to be able to quantify what you've done. As John referred to, you get 7 seconds. So if I'm reading through and I'm looking at a brisk pace, I want to know what you do, what you're capable of. If you step foot in my organization tomorrow, what can you bring to the table right away? And so having those metrics, whatever they may be, are a fantastic quick guide to keep the person looking at the resume engaged and interested, and maybe take another 5-10 seconds to look at the rest of your resume. When it gets filled out with a lot of fluff and a lot of pretty language, that stuff doesn't matter as much because folks that have been doing this for a long time, they see through it pretty quickly. So measurables, metrics are really big.
Hey, could we pause there and like maybe just a couple of examples? Like are we what would you guys what are some good examples of that for people when we want to quantify something? Is it maybe that things you did that helped with revenue growth, or shorten the delivery time, maybe automated scripts, and shorten the processing time, things like that? Like maybe just some examples.
I think you named a few of them for me, but yeah, I would say when you're going through your day-to-day responsibilities in any job, you should be kind of metricing yourself. And yeah. So what I mean by that is, how are you making your team better? What are you doing on a day-to-day basis? Whether it be just, for an example, number of widgets made, or anything in the sense that you give an idea of how you participated. So just an easy example is what we do in recruiting. We have a certain number of people that we need to have submitted to clients on a weekly basis. And if you track that over time, then that would become my measurable. So if you look at your job and what you're doing, you can usually find something that you do on a daily basis that you can quantify and put on your resume. And that may require a little bit more digging, depending on what you're doing. But I think it's there if you really take the time to investigate it. And lastly, this is kind of simple but really significant, is your file names and your email addresses. Seems like an obvious thing, but if you send an email to somebody, or if you send a file to somebody and it's Jacqueline's resume 2021-4572, that's not going to be easily identifiable for the recruiter. We usually save things a lot of times in folders, and we need to have quick access. And if you have a sloppy jumble of a file name, we're not going to be able to access it as quick. And the email address as well, people have to be able to get to you easily and in a way that is rememberable. So, one of my emails, brandon.merrill@gmail. I mean, that's very succinct. And it's not hopefully at this stage, it's not a common thing to correct, but it's still really important to remember that things need to be concise, clean, and easy for whoever's on the other end receiving this information. So that's what I've got. That's my spiel.
Okay, so to summarize your top three, it's address the gaps, try to quantify your role, your achievements, and then be crisp with naming your naming convention on your resume. Have that be neat and tidy.
Exactly. And I think crisp is a good way to think about the entire process. I mean, you want it to be something that gives a great overview of what you do, but you don't want to get bogged down. So I think crisp was a great word to use. And I think it's something to keep in mind as you go through the process.
Should we go all the way from 89 degrees in Phoenix, Arizona, up to, was it 37 up in Chicago today, Brian?
It's 37 today.
Oh boy. All right. All right, your top three.
Mine are proofreading, layout, and design. And I know I'm jumping a little bit ahead. I know that's going to be our next session on LinkedIn, but I'll tie that in at the end. Victor, can you pull up the sample that I sent you? If not, I can.
Yep, I can pull it up. I am all queued up and ready to start sharing my screen.
Yeah, pull up sample number 1.
You see, they give me the easy job.
Yeah. And again, it's just the main thing in doing your resume is to just make sure that you proofread it before you send it to anyone. Okay. I had some specific things on here on page 1. Yeah, is that it? Yeah, can we go to page 1 all the way up? Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that mine?
Let me make sure.
That's not mine. I had the SCCM engineer one. That's okay. I can wait.
No, I got you.
And I can actually make examples of this one. It's up to you.
No, we got it. Is this it here?
No.
Oh man, how many of these do I have?
It's okay. I labeled it.
Oh no,
There we go, right there. That's nope, that's not it either.
Uzis. For some reason, I'm not seeing yours.
Okay.
Yeah, you go ahead and pull yours up.
Let me pull mine up. Hold on, I'll be right there. Let's go here. Bam. Okay. Sample resumes.
Guess my job wasn't as easy as I thought.
Oh man, that's okay. Can't be amazing at everything. No, it's okay. I capped them. Here we go. I got sample 1. I got sample 2. Okay, I've got that one. Okay, let's see here. I got that one. Yeah, hold on. And I've got the other one. Just give me 1 second. I'll pull it up because I know I sent it to you yesterday.
I've got sample 1 ready to roll if you want.
Brian. That's great. If you can do that one, because I can pull it up. I got it. You got it?
Yeah, I'm clicking.
Okay, and I've got sample 2 already queued up.
Okay, here you go.
Okay, good. There you go. Okay. One of the things about your resume is formatting it. If you notice here that the person has like a lot of certain things bolden, well, that's kind of distracting. So you don't necessarily have to do that. Okay. Be prepared though if a recruiter or a hiring manager asks you to emphasize something, then you could go back and bold it or just have give a written explanation of your skill set where they're asking. Come down, John, to the first position that they got. There you go, right there in the Reyes Holdings. Great, stop right there. Okay, one of the things that I want you guys to be very careful of, especially if you're in the tech field, okay, is when it comes to certain terminology. Like in this particular case, one of the things that were important to this job is PowerShell. And the candidate had written out PowerShell, that way. Okay. And PowerShell, the S should always be capitalized. And I'll show you that on the second example. But those are little things like that that I really want you guys to be very conscious of, because in the tech field, there are people that really look at that. Also, if you notice the type is in two different fonts. The company name and the work and the title are in one font, and the word, the description is in another font. Decide on the font that you like and that you're comfortable with, and keep everything in the same font. Reason being that it just reads easier and it's a lot cleaner. Okay. Also, John, if you can go all the way to the bottom. Yeah. If you notice, his resume is either 8 or 9 pages long.
This is going to take me a long time.
I know, way too long.
9 pages.
Way too long.
What?
Way too long. Guys, if I can tell you anything.
Can I stop now?
You can.
Did you make you made your point?
If I can advise you on, granted, especially in the tech field, especially at a senior level, your career and your life won't fit on one page. It's okay to go up to 4 or 5, depending on your experience level, but 8, 9, 10 plus pages is way too much, and you don't want to do that. As soon as I open a resume that long, the first thing I do is I send it back to the candidate and say, I need you to pare this down to 5 pages and send it back to me. If they do, I know they're serious. If they don't, I thank them, because then honestly, I don't have to waste my time, because I know they won't work with me. Or they'll be difficult when they get with our client. If you're coming to me to help you find employment, but you won't work with me to get your resume presentable, then I know that you're not serious. So I that's not to weed you out, but I'm like, okay, if you're not going to help me, then okay, I'll move on to somebody that's willing to help me. Okay. I
didn't mean to jump ahead here, but I got the sample too.
Is this great?
Okay.
If you can just go scroll down.
Got it.
And if you notice, all of the wording, all of the font, it's all in the same font. Just some of it is just highlighted, just the certain things. Notice the PowerShell is fixed. That be very careful with like shortening things like it. Normally, when he initially sent this to me, some places he would have Windows 10 or Windows 7, and in other places he would have Win 7, Win 10. Don't do that. Keep it all consistent. Especially if you're in a project management or a business a business analyst role, because documentation is going to be so important. And I just caught myself. I've missed that one right there with that Win 10 up there. So, but again, just make sure that you reread it. Be very careful about it. And then also, if any recruiter that you're working with, ask them to go over it and be willing to go over it with them to make any changes. Okay. And be also, I can't express this enough. Please be willing to work with your recruiter to modify your resume for different opportunities. Not like some positions are different. So in some cases, one job may emphasize one skill set more, another position will emphasize something else. So just be flexible and work with your recruiter to modify your resume to emphasize what the hiring manager is asking for. Okay.
So I see that the first resume was 9 pages. It looks like this one is maybe 5 or 6 now.
Right, you
want me to scroll down? I'd like to see how you shortened it.
And what I did, yeah, you can scroll down, and the only reason it's 6 is because when we format our resumes, we have the header and the footer, and that added some space. So there were some things I could have taken out. Yeah.
So it looks like the most distant
Right.
jobs, the oldest jobs, can
Mhm.
really just be listed the company, location, date,
Right.
and the title.
You got it. And the reason that I do that is to show the client or the hiring manager a consistent work history.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And the last point I was going to make, and I know I'm getting ahead, and I can't wait to participate on the call for LinkedIn. Guys, please, I can't express enough. If you are in the tech field, or just in the professional field, update your LinkedIn profile and make sure that your LinkedIn profile matches your resume. The first thing I do when I get a candidate's resume is I look them up on LinkedIn. And I'll make sure that the LinkedIn profile matches their resume.
Dates.
Yep.
Dates
I
are the
do it every
same.
day.
Title. Yeah. You want some
I do.
consistency there. Yeah.
Yep. And I make sure the dates match up, the jobs match up, the companies and everything. And
Yeah.
then it also gives me an opportunity to see what other extracurricular activities they may be involved in, which is great because you want somebody that ideally you look for candidates that are well-rounded. You know, just I don't want to just see, well, some companies, you know, especially if it's a direct hire or whatever, they don't just want to see what you've done professionally, but you know, they want to see, you know, what you've done like just personally or, you know, community-wise that, you know, will help make you a fit. So all that can do is just help you in this to present a better, a well-rounded profile of you and your profession.
You know what? I'm
done.
I'm
Thanks, John.
curious. I'm curious. Our client on the panel, Ed, like, I wonder if some of this stuff bothers him when he's looking at all these resumes. He's trying to bring in the next great person on his team, and he sees these different fonts. He sees PowerShell spelled, you know, the way it shouldn't be, or I mean, what if there's just out and out, you know, like some misspellings, and there's no, you know, the proofreading was kind of looked over. Ed, what do you think?
Yeah, that's you nailed it. So and Brian, I'm here taking notes, you know, learning. We would kind of consider ourselves recruiter light. You know, we kind of pretend that we have you guys sensibilities when you pass resumes and candidates along to us. But you know, a few things that you said stood out. Attention to detail. If PowerShell isn't its actual name, I'll question whether or not you're really familiar with the Microsoft suite of products. So that was critical. Font consistency, spacing on your resume. So just to really echo the saying, Brian, for us, it's if your resume format is questionable in any way, if there's anything that doesn't quite sit, it's not about being perfect, but it's about, you know, flow is nice and being consistent, as Brian was mentioning. If it's not quite that, that informs me on what kind of thinker you are. Are you self-aware? What's your attention to detail? If developer or software engineer, I'm thinking about what your code hygiene is going to look like. Is the spacing, is your commentary going to be considerate for others having to read your code or the end product? So if format, attention to detail isn't there, we would more than likely overlook that candidate. That we can't really even absorb the content if the format's not there. Now, Matrix being a high value partner of ours, we always love the candidates you send. We typically hire and we keep those people around. I'm an example of that, but we can't always hire, you know, separate business issues. We can't always hire for Matrix. So we get varying levels of candidate resumes, varying levels of candidates. And this is where we see some of those things where the polish isn't there on the resume. And these are controllable things. So yeah, more than a pet peeve, it comes down to real business decisions for us, JB. We just can't trust that you can help us win in the marketplace.
Yeah, it's so frustrating when when you know that someone, like, they really know what they're doing in their space. And, you know, it's just, you know, sloppiness on the resume, and you just can't fix that first impression then from the client, from the hiring manager. When, you know, if they form a judgment, it's hard to get that, you know, turned back around. And if it's just as silly as, you know, the format or a misspelling, you know, some sort of grammatical situation, you just want to really be thorough with that, because it's a shame when someone gets overlooked. And I've been doing this far too long, and I still get frustrated when that happens. I'm like, oh my goodness, you know, this is such a good candidate, and, you know, they missed it, and, you know, maybe we missed it. We try not to, but it's important, definitely important. So.
Yeah, and I did want to add a few things onto that, because as you look at the resume that Brian was sharing that was 8+ pages long, I believe something you should consider as a candidate is, you know, how much of my autobiography do I want to share in this moment, right? And what will I have left over to share when they actually hire me and/or interview me, right? So if you were to give me that resume and we're in person, right, and you really expect me to go through that entire resume to understand what your history is, how much of an opportunity will I actually have to speak with you? Right. So if you want me to pay attention to the words that are coming out of your mouth, your resume has to be a teaser, not your autobiography. Right. So I can only pay attention to so much, and I only have so much time available to me. So although many of these things are transferred electronically now, we still should be considerate of how many other people are also sending the exact same thing and how much attention is actually being given to those particular documents, right? So that's the first thing. Second thing, although I'm not, I will raise my hands, I've been on both sides of it. I'm not the grammar police, but in the resume Brian was just sharing, it was very obvious some spelling mistakes and some simple things that could have been corrected. Why do I say that? So yes, Victor may not be the grammar police, but you want to minimize the doors that close because of simple things, right? If it's something that you can hit F7 on your computer for, and it automatically tells you that you have this particular syntax error or grammar error. I'm going into coding now. You have this particular grammar error, or if you have Grammarly installed and you're leveraging Google Docs or whatever your choice application is, I mean, it gives you that information up front. So when you don't correct it, and granted, I know there are some times where it misrepresents things that are correctly spelled or correctly described. I get it. But when you don't take just that small bit of time to put a little extra effort in, although Victor may not care as much, there's someone else that's going to shut that door. And your goal is to keep as many doors open as possible. So you have the option as to which one you walk through, right? So I'll leave those two things. And it's been mentioned many times, so I'll put the plug in. LinkedIn session, third Wednesday, 6:30. Shanika will be sending out additional information on that, but I'll throw that plug. If you don't have a LinkedIn right now, go out there, create one. It may be horrible, and we'll tell you about it, but create it, and then you can make it better. All right, hand it back over.
Sounds good. Thanks, Victor, for chiming in. Great stuff. Okay, so are we kind of all like a little worried for Susie that Brandon took 3, Brian took 3? I mean, there's got to still be, you still got 3 things you can talk about?
You know, I can always talk about 3 things. Does it relate? Who knows? No, but some of the things that we have not discussed is, you know, the resume length, you know, depending on where you are in your career. Yeah. If you're early in your career, you may not have a long resume. It might be a page, might be a page and a half. But if you have 5, 10, 15 years of experience, and I see 1 page for your resume, I don't really get an understanding of what you've been doing with each company or your roles and responsibilities. What I like to tell candidate is, you know, paint a picture, but with words on what your day-to-day is, what your responsibilities, things that you own, what platform, software, technology you touch and your interaction with those. Because if you put on there, PowerShell, well, are you scripting or are you just, working with somebody that mentioned PowerShell? So it's, anything that is on a resume is fair game for a hiring manager to ask questions about. So you want to make sure that you put the technology and the software platforms that you can speak highly of. And then you want to represent examples of how you use the software or the platform that you have. It's okay to be wordy because a recruiter can tailor it back, but you want to capture, responsibility, challenges, success, success projects. Even if a project was, in the red when you were assigned and it was still in the red by the end, but you put in so much effort and you did everything you could, that still shows that you were, a candidate never gave up. They were willing to go to the end, and it just turned out maybe the project was not set up for success in the beginning, but they did everything that they could, and they walked through the steps and trials and error. So it's okay to have a wordy resume, but yeah, if it's one page with extensive experience, I get a little nervous because then you wonder, what they're capable of, or if they can speak highly to each position.
Yeah.
Another.
Could I pause on and hover over that for a second? Because I thought last week in our prep session for this workshop, we had a really good discussion about this. And again, I think it's a great point on the one page, because so many people hear that. You'll read it. You're like, oh, your resume should be one page. Nope. So great points you made right there. But where I wanted us to hover over was the, when you list skills, when you list like technical skills, because everyone on here tonight, we're all IT people. So when we list technical skills, you're going to have those in a particular order, right? Mm-hmm. So this was good. Like from a hiring manager's perspective, Victor chimed in on this last week. He said, when you list these skills on your resume, I think that going from whatever you have first and then down, my perception is that the first thing that you list there, that's what you're best at. Mm-hmm. So whatever you're listing first, I'm going to ask you about it, and I'm going to expect you to like crush the response. When I say, hey, tell me about your PowerShell. I'm thinking, I just like teed this up for you beautifully. And, if you say, oh, well, I just have a little exposure to that, that's very concerning. If that's like number one and you lay an egg in that response, mm-hmm. The interview, I'm taking all of Victor's thunder here. I'll turn it over to you. You say what you think, Victor.
Yeah, no, that's spot on, and that's something that I look at often. So whether it's a competency you're listing, a skill set, or if it's a technical skill, those your first few things that you have listed, I'm keying in on those. And to John's point, I expect us to have some very rich dialogue about those particular skill sets. If you put that you're like, we love to put that I communicate well, both written and in a group or whatever the case, I'm teamwork, leadership, different things. But if on your resume, you're saying you're an excellent communicator, but there are a lot of typos, like I'll question that. Mm-hmm. If you list Java as your number one technical skill set, but you don't understand the first principle of object-oriented programming, and not only that, you don't understand Java, and you can't tell me about recent projects that you've done, I'm going to question that. If you list as an operating system Linux as your operating system, but you can't tell me any of the scripting or shell commands or anything that you've done recently to help contribute to your organization, then I'm going to question that. And I think one thing that people try to do that they should avoid doing is assuming that a recruiter is not as technical as them, right? Sometimes they make that assumption. You may be right, and many times you may not, because recruiters have been around it enough where they can snuff out someone that's bluffing them. So you have to be really careful thinking that you can begin just throwing random terms at a recruiter and they're not going to understand it, because you may find yourself in a situation where your resume and or your profile is just being tossed to the side. All right.
Sounds good. Susie, we interrupted you.
Yeah.
It's okay. You guys stole part of my thunder. It's fine because it's organic. But another point that I do want to highlight when it comes to technical skills, depending on where you're applying, if you apply to like a Delta or a Cox Auto, they have a VMS system where it's going to read those buzzwords. Depending on how many times a buzzword pops up through their automated system, a resume might get moved to the side and not go through, to the hiring manager. So again, Windows and Linux, if they're looking for that hybrid, how many times is Windows Server, and then also the flavors of Linux that one has on the resume, because if it's only mentioned 1 or 2 times and the person says they have 15 years of experience with it, it'll get moved to the side. Whereas other people that have it multiple times throughout the resume, it'll get shifted to the hiring manager for review.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to have it relevant. You don't want to just paint happy Windows this. You want to make sense with it and, explain the responsibilities that you had within it, in the environment. Whether it was 24/7, were you responding to tickets? If so, how many tickets? How many servers? How many virtual? How many on-site? Things of that nature.
Yeah, there is an awful lot of conversation about that nowadays, just the search engine optimization and analytics behind the matching. So you can see, like, it's been so common and it's so obvious when a candidate will plop in, if they're a Java developer and they purposely plop in Java, every 5th word or whatever, somehow, some way, and it reads awkwardly. Okay, this person is like trying to trick the automation so that their resume gets to, the page 1, listing of candidates. So it's something to be aware of because it's there and you want to be smart about it, but don't overdo it. So
yeah. And can I do another shameless plug for our LinkedIn event?
Yeah.
So here's the reality, and I don't know if many of the folks that randomly just place their profiles on LinkedIn recognize that this happens. You have a whole nother group of LinkedIn users that pay for LinkedIn, and they pay for the ability to search your profile. Mm-hmm. Right. And so typically when we do it, your profile will pop up based on what our search criteria is. I may put in my search criteria Java object-oriented programmer or something like that, or a software engineer, Java, Python, etc. And based on what I say I want to find, I will get a % match back based on the profiles. And then I will go to those profiles and I can be really slick and make pseudo customized messages to make it appear that I was only communicating with you to see if you'll reply back. Or I can send you the common spam mail message that you'll definitely know I sent this to a gazillion people and I'm just trying to see who responds. But the reality is that LinkedIn is very similar to your resume and very similar to what is being mentioned now with the resume scanners. That same thing happens on social profiles. Google gives you the ability to do X-ray scans. That's a way to get around paying for certain things on some of these social sites. So there are just many opportunities that are out there. So if you make sure your resume is structured in the right way, sometimes you'll land in piles that you didn't even desire to be landing in, but you're there because your resume was built and your profiles are built in a certain way. And Jay, I do want you to know we are going to come to your question. I would like for you to ask that question and toss that over to our recruiters so they can give some feedback on that as well. But we'll come to that as soon as we're done with Susie's session.
Well, I was going to say just one other thing, because you were talking about, LinkedIn and social media. I know that when I'm looking into candidates, I'm not only checking their LinkedIn profile, I'm checking Facebook.
You're Twitter. Not checking Facebook, are you? Not Facebook.
And Instagram.
No,
I want to see it.
Not Instagram, not the pictures.
I do. I have to share just an example. I saw scary something on someone's social media platform and I was like, oh no, we can't have this representing matrix. Oh no, no, no. So it comes into play.
Yes,
It
it
definitely does.
Yeah.
Very good. Is there, so did you, I lost track. Did you cover 3 things?
Well, yes, I did the resume, you know, having it more than one page,
Okay.
putting in your responsibilities and, you know, experience. And then you guys stole my thunder on putting the things that your core skills in top order.
Okay, very good.
That was John's fault. That was John.
I know, I'll take the blame for that. So I will say, and this would be a good little discussion here. I do think, unlike the format of listing your resume, and this maybe is just my opinion and how I like to consume resumes, but when it's just not laid out in a chronological order, like if it's a functional type of resume, I don't know. I struggle with following that. I'm like, if I see it, I'm like, okay, this is good, but can you give me your real resume? And again, maybe that's just me, but again, I'd let Ed, do you ever get like a functional resume or something when it's not chronological? Are you okay with that? Maybe it's just me.
Yeah, I'm old school, maybe. I'm not okay with that. We had a series of discussions this last round of hiring about some resumes being more conversational versus, you know, typical bullet list. I think in IT we'll find more listing because it's such a, you have to include a lot of stuff, especially you have 10 and 20 years experience. But chronological, I think there's an advantage still, at least in IT, to list it out in a way that's time-based and functional.
Yeah.
I like chronological. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
So,
John and Ed, I'd have to agree with you guys too. I like it chronological. Functional is good. That's fine, but I want my client to know where and when did you do it. Not that you can do it. When and where did you do it? That's what I want them to see.
yeah.
If it's not chronological, we could receive it as you're trying to downplay
Something is, yeah,
experience or length of time.
Yep.
So I'd love to get some reaction to Jay's question about the, let me read it and make sure any resume CV tips or examples for going after executive level positions. So I wanted to make sure, because I think, Susie, you've got like a limited time here before you have to drop off. And I know, because you and I have been working on a lot of on a senior level, like consulting partner type positions recently.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been swimming in these types of profiles lately. So I'd love your feedback on Jay's question there, just some of the things that you look for.
So, you know, everybody has their way of putting things on a resume. So a lot of times in leadership, you have direct reports. You hire, you fire, you mentor, you lead. You have, you know, you wear multiple hats. So emphasizing what it is you're applying for, you know, if it's, you know, a C-level, I want to see those KPIs. I want to see those metrics. I want to see what kind of team you had, who was on your team, you know, who were you mentoring? Are you looking over multiple departments, things of that nature, that it spells it out, or, you know, oh, okay, this is a really intensive C-level candidate and we need to definitely get them in front of XYZ. And then you have some C-levels that come from a smaller company where it's not enterprise, it's more mid-size, and it's more, I wouldn't say more thorough, but it's a little more, it's not a true, it can be not a C-level, but definitely leadership, because just like Agile, everybody has their own interpretation of, are they, you know, Agile. So it really depends. I like to walk through the resume with executives because it could have been a while since they've updated the resume, so they're not really sure what to put on there. It's a case by case kind of scenario for me. Not one resume is the same. And yes, John and I have been working on a number of C-level positions, and every candidate's different. There's not an exact recipe for it.
So I think it's interesting. I thought we would get to this, but a lot of the same fundamentals and everything that we walk through, it applies to this as well. So you want to understand what you're going after. You want it to be chronological. You want to quantify it. I also think in some of those executive level positions, they're looking to see, you know, what your involvement was with the setting of the strategy, the road mapping. What things have you come up with the idea and then saw it through to completion? So those types of initiatives, that's what they're looking to see, you know, those achievements made. So it's almost more, I think the higher you go, the more your resume is about achievements and a little less on the responsibilities. You want to have both listed, whatever level you are. But I think the more senior you get in your career, it starts to shift over to, okay, I'm going to list my achievements, you know, in bullets. And while we're talking about bullets, you want to be, Brandon chimed in on this before, the word crisp, being succinct. I mean, less is more. It's okay to be wordy, and because you know you're going to trim it down. Because again, think about yourself. How much we consume and how much we read every day. You get a resume and it's like these huge paragraphs. I mean, I don't know when I got lazy, but sometimes I look at them just like, wow, that's a lot to read. I'm not going to read all that. You know, where if I see some like empty space in the resume, and it's nice bullets that are easy, like I can scan through that and go. I mean, I feel good. I'm like, hey, I'm like consuming this. I've gotten through. I've got a good read on this person. That's the kind of reaction you want. You don't want to lose someone right off the bat because, you know, your resume, it's you know, got a huge paragraph to begin with, and it's like too overwhelming for a recruiter or just a hiring manager to get through. So my points on that.
Yeah, so something I'll throw in on there as well, John. When you're looking at that executive senior leadership role, I think everything that was mentioned is spot on, but then especially if you're in a larger organization, restructurings, transformations, consolidations, if you are absorbing other companies into the organization, and if you played a role in that, being able to highlight that and more specifically what your role was in some of that and the skill sets that you've picked up along the way, being able to show the case that on your resume is extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can we talk about the when you list I and when you list we? You know where I'm going with that?
There's a we on your resume? We don't. No.
I personally never want to see the word I on a resume, ever.
I or we.
Yeah, either or, ever.
Right. You don't want to see the I, but you can, what we would recommend is sole contributor, or, you know, was part of a team. It was a team effort where we, because, you know, depending on the position, somebody may want a individual contributor versus someone who just follows the crowd.
Yeah. And some of this may be another shameless plug for the interview tips. That's where the I and the we will come into play a little bit more as well.
I can't wait for the interviewing. That's fun. I love interviewing.
Hey, Susie, did you want to go through your before and after?
Yeah, let's do that real quick before I have to hop off.
You can do it? Okay. All right. Hang on one second. Let me get your systems engineer position. Hopefully this is right.
So while JV's bringing that up, we had a candidate who, this is the after. If you'll
That's the after. Uh-oh.
It's okay.
Mm.
Who's applying or wants to apply for a hands-on kind of systems position. And when you just on the first page, if you'll scroll down just a little bit, you know, I would never guess this individual is hands-on, just the first page right there. Go up a little. There you go. I would never really think he's hands-on because his title is manager. I don't see anything relating to being hands-on with Windows or anything. And then, you know, met with the candidate. He explained to me everything that he's involved in his role. And then JV, if you'll go to the matrix version. There you go.
Sorry.
Yeah. And then if you'll scroll down just a little bit, beginning, yeah, as you can see, he took the time to really update his role because he was in a hybrid role. So not only was he part of leadership, but he was also hands-on and remained hands-on. So you capture the environment just at a first glance. You can see, you know, the VMware, the SCOM. I think you can see well, if you go a little bit down, that's when it gets into the little nitty gritty, but the number of servers, the number of tickets, what flavors of, you know, Windows, it was 2003. You get a sense of, okay, here's the environment versus what he was doing before. And that's what landed his interview, is because he took the time to do that. You know, at first, if we would send the resume as is, they would say, no, I'm sorry, we need a hands-on individual, or yet, had he not taken the time to update his resume, you would have never known that. You wouldn't even understand the environment. It's just kind of walking through those steps.
Yep. And then you do you like to finish with, it's very few people are ever going to list their education first, right? I mean,
Well, Matrix, what our practice is we always put the education and certifications at the bottom. However, you know, if it's fancy certifications, I'll put it next to their name, you know, just to showcase that at first glance. So it's right in your face.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. Any questions from anybody on that review right there? Ed, would you hire that person?
Yeah, I think, you know, I mean, it had the matrix header at the top, so that makes for a good candidate. But that's a big deal. I think, you know, if we were looking for somebody who was less technical, you know, looking to do people leadership, we would have liked that first resume. If it was somebody who needed to be more of a technical manager or bring ideas and lead technical teams, the second resume, hands down, was better. You know, the format seemed clean. It communicated to me, at least, that the candidate is a keen communicator. But yeah, I think as the world moves to more demand for IT-like aptitudes and sensibilities in all kinds of jobs, it never hurts to list the technical stuff, what you get your hands dirty on, and at least drop the names of the things that you're familiar with. It actually leads me to another question I can save for later, but it is about embellishment and fluff in resumes. We can get into that.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. Yeah, we can definitely get into that. But the one thing I would call out with the description of the two resumes I just saw is not a question on the resume per se, but it's more so the value of having someone review your resume and give you critical feedback, especially if you're applying for a particular type of job. Definitely the formatting that Matrix recommended to this individual for their resume to go out was very, very good. But I think the other piece, everybody's not going to be connected with the matrix. So in general, you probably should have some other eyes look at your resume and share with them what you're going for, because it'll be helpful for you. What's good for one thing may not be good for another. So get that feedback, and as much as you can, everybody's an individual, but try to follow that feedback, especially if you're getting it from experts like those that we have on the line today.
Hey, Brandon, do you want to step through your before and after real quick?
Well, JV, can I just interrupt real quick?
Oh, yeah.
I've got to go take care of the kiddos. But I just wanted to say thank you to everyone just to be part of this. And I know that Brandon, Brian, and I, if anyone on this, meeting would like, just feedback on a resume or would like us to critique it in any way, I know that all of us are available. So feel free to reach out to us because we'd be more than happy to help. Well, everyone enjoy your evening, but I have to go take care of the little ones.
Thank you, Susie. Really appreciate it.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Take care, Susie.
Thank you.
See you in the morning.
Okay.
All right, let me find.
So I have to call myself out a little bit here, and it kind of makes me laugh. I actually touched on it in my portion of the resume review, but this is actually a voice engineer, and I have it labeled at the top as a DevOps engineer. So these kinds of things are the things, and I'll tell on myself because that's the kind of guy I am. But those are the kinds of things that get you in trouble. So living my example right there. But and you can just kind of take it at a leisurely kind of stroll through. But just looking at this, I think the first thing I noticed about it was just the fact that you have different fonts. So you've got different sizes, and in different actual fonts. And I think if it was me looking at that, I'd probably walk away from that pretty quickly. It wouldn't take me a lot of time to actually even go through the resume to know that this person isn't really organized and isn't really focused. They don't have their eye on the ball as much if you're going after a new position. The other thing you'll notice
people don't ever have an objective anymore, do they? Don't do that, right?
Yeah, no, that's thank you for that, John. That's another thing I meant to do. Yeah, that's not a thing anymore.
Yeah, okay.
The other thing I was going to mention is you see a lot of hardware and software mentioned when you look at this kind of big block here, but it doesn't necessarily explain what the person was doing. You just get a lot of technology for technology's sake. One of the resumes that you kind of think is just trying to meet the get through the system kind of resume that we talked about earlier. We have 15 listings of Java. It kind of has that feel to it. It's just not it's not efficient, and it's not as effective in getting your point across of what you do or what you're trying to accomplish. It's just kind of a massive ball is how I would describe it. And then when you look at, if you want to pause there real quick, sorry, go back real fast. I apologize.
Sorry. Yep.
Even when you look at the information of where the person was at the signature group working as a Cisco voice engineer, you really kind of have to look at that for a minute to figure out, okay, they were where and they did what. So you have the listing for the actual position heading at the end after where it was. I mean, it's just, it's a wonky kind of way to identify where you were and what you did. So I just wanted to touch on that as well.
Yeah, and then it's inconsistent. It's not the same, the next one.
Right.
Where they list the title here and the location. It's not, yeah, like Brian was saying, be consistent in how you have these things listed. Yeah. And then I noticed, yeah, like the font was like midway through all the bullets, it got smaller, like right here, all of a sudden it got smaller. I'm like, what's going on here?
And some of this stuff can happen.
Syntax error. Yeah, syntax error. I noticed District of Columbia, DC, was missing a period.
Yeah.
It's the little things.
It's the little things.
And I was going to say, sometimes we do, I think sometimes a copy and paste or something into a different a format, or if the word version is different, or things. So things like that can happen, but you have to look at it. You have to.
Brandon, you're being a bit nice right there. You said copy and paste from a different form. You copy and paste it from online, and you forgot, to adjust those fonts when you did it. And I think that's when we're getting into the conversation that Ed mentioned with the fluff. So I think that copy and paste, when you're just online and you're searching job description for this particular job, because you don't want to take the time to really, inventory what you've done in that past role. So you just go and search for something that's already pre-made, and you do those copy and paste. And unfortunately, it doesn't always work out for your best. Right. And these are examples of that being a potential, right? And I know I've seen it plenty of times when people copy and paste from HTML and into their Word document, and it messes it up, but you don't notice it because you're in a rush to get something completed.
Just quickly doubling down on what you said, Victor, that the need to put extra eyes on it to proofread, so critical. Going through my recent resume reviews, there was a line item that I had in my current job description that really would have fit more on a developer's resume, in which case I'd have a version where it's more focused on the technical stuff that I was doing, separate from the leadership stuff that I was doing, but it was misplaced. And it wasn't until I got the fresh eyes on it that I was able to see that. I had just been looking at it for too long. And I think it's just a human nature thing. We're not going to catch our own errors. We need somebody else to prove that. I think that's a critically important piece of advice.
Yeah. Agree. Good stuff. So look at this is nice, Brandon. I mean, looking at they do have an objective there, and then looking at this like objective and bio as opposed to what you did with it, then just a nice clean, like this looks good. It's professional summary right here.
And a lot of it, I think, is just taking the time to make sure everything looks the same. I think we get first impressions. First impressions are everything. That's all we get. And I was actually talking to my wife about this, but it can be tough because you can have everything to offer in the world, but your first impression is all anybody sees. And that's what sticks with them the longest. So I think that it's a really big deal to make sure that the aesthetical, as well as the content-driven side of the resume really looks the way it's supposed to. More lined up, aerodynamic, pleasing for the eye, and things of that nature.
I like how you
listen. Question in the chat about summary section, if you guys wanted to touch on that, because it is relevant to adding.
Sure. So let me look back here and see what that was. I don't think I caught it. Is the summary section recommended in the beginning, or is it, I think a summary section is nice because it just gives a quick, like a photo. It's like a snapshot or a screenshot or just a quick overview, and then you can go into detail below. So I personally like to see them. I think that I can get a good gauge for what this person does really quickly, and then, but it doesn't have to be super verbose. I mean, you don't want to overdo it either. So it's a nice little touch. It's like seasoning. You don't want to overdo it, but you got to have some. So that's what I think about this.
Brandon, this is good. Like you don't want that summary to be, like this is about as long as, you'd probably want it to be, right? I mean, too much longer, it's not a summary anymore.
Yeah, and you can even argue this. You can even argue this being too long. So So you really gotta be careful there. I think probably 5 or 6 bullet points is good to go.
And then I would do this considering we're family. I will actually share my personal resume and just to show just a snippet. And granted, I created my personal resume pretty quickly, but I think that summary piece and the question that was asked about that is truly important. So before I share it, there's a couple of things to think of. I knew the job I was applying for, so my summary was targeting that particular job. I knew the area that I'd be potentially working in had just gone through a pretty significant transition. And for those of you that are not familiar, the word transition is aligned to the word restructure, which means, there were some changes So there is going to be certain feelings in that space, especially with me being a person that will potentially come in from outside of that space to play a role in that area, right? So I wanted to create just a pretty quick summary that highlighted, because what they wanted was a technical leader that could come into a business area and help provide leadership in that space. But they wanted a technical leader because the goal was to kind of make some inroads in the technologies of that business area. So I'll share it. And I love hearing some of the feedback on the resume, some of that I'll be able to use. I loved hearing the executive question, although I'm still earlier in my leadership journey. I believe that type of information will definitely assist me as I continue to grow in leadership, but definitely wanted to at least share with the family, and let you all see what I see, especially as someone that hires as well, right? So let me know, can you all see my screen now?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I tried to keep it really short. Right now, for me, when I bold things, it's to call out the alignment of my areas of expertise. So I list some areas of expertise up top, and the things that I call out in my bullets that I list align to those areas of expertise. So I'm not saying, hey, I'm this, but I never show that in my resume, right? But my summary, which I don't even put the word summary on it, but it just says strong leader who consistently takes on challenging projects, builds exceptional teams. Now, those particular two things right there was targeting the fact that they were going through that transition. It was going to be a lot of hard feelings about what was coming out of that. So I'm acknowledging the fact that my brand is about taking on challenging projects and building exceptional teams, right? So if they go check on me historically with people I've worked with, they would be able to pull that out as well and drive significant ROI. Recent results include reducing infrastructure expenses by $500,000 and reducing the time to stand up new analytics platforms by 600%, right? So
Man,
when we talk about the
you're
metrics,
serious about quantifying, weren't you?
Yeah.
so I'm a data person.
And I love that, Victor. Let me just say, I love that. That's great. I love seeing that.
Because, and especially when you're in management, if you're in management, I want to see, what did you do? What was the budget? Accomplishments, strategic planning. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you have to hit that budget piece, right? So I manage an annual budget of 25+ million just for my little space in State Farm, right? So I guess I shouldn't, but everybody know where I work. But for my little piece in State Farm, that's what I manage. So at State Farm, that's not that significant of a budget. But outside of State Farm, someone may see it and they may get really excited about it. Like, okay, he's leading up to 30+ people. And this is just me as a first line leader.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even, but at some other company, they may say, oh, he got 30 people, 25+ million budget. He's doing these different things. I started up our site in Atlanta, so I have some startup background. So those things may mean something to them. But for this particular job, I wanted to focus on a lot of the competencies and skills that would translate to the new space that I'd be trying to go to, which I'm excited to say I got the job. So I'll be starting that job pretty soon. But I did want to just share with the family, a few ways of looking at it. Whereas on the one spread, on the one resume, there were bullets, which is okay as well. To the point that was made from Brandon, I would kind of see that as too many bullets for a summary, because you want to be succinct, you want to be to the point. And if you can target the position that you're looking for with what you're saying, just give them a little teaser to say, I'm your guy, at least interview me. And when you hear me speak about it, you'll see that I can confirm all the things that I'm saying on the resume. But that's something I just wanted to share with you all, just so you have a different example. And of course, I didn't have any of our experts review it, so there are probably some things I can do to even make it better. But transparency, vulnerability, that's what we're all about.
Well, and I would just say, Victor, the only thing I didn't like was I didn't like the italicized portion.
Yeah.
That was a little hard on my eyes, but I think that's more of a personal preference for me. I don't know, John or Brian.
It was actually hard for me. So when I do it on PowerPoint, it looks a little better. Not PowerPoint, on PDF. But in this Word document on this screen, it was looking hard for me. So I was thinking that as I was reading, I'm like, oh, I'll just get rid of that italicizing and so you can easily read it. But yeah, that's good feedback.
Hey, Victor.
I was going to share the same thing. Your resume looks way better than mine. And easy for me to watch ESPN Monday morning and say, yeah, quarterback should have done this during the game. But yeah, I think that the content, the bolding, spot on, but the italics and potentially the fonts. So I'm maybe 5 years behind in hearing that Calibri was one of the most readable fonts. And so I tend to do everything in Calibri, Calibri body, but I like that it was differentiated such that it does read. It almost read like your summary reads almost like a quote about a person. It was almost artistic in that way.
Yeah,
but that font.
And I would say for the people that maybe have not worked in industry as long as some of us have, one of the things that I tend to do, and John mentioned this at the very beginning with the 7-second resume, right? So I intentionally bold certain things. Now that one sample resume we saw that had like bolds like all throughout, and it was just taking your eyes everywhere. No, that's horrible. But if you want someone to actually key in on certain words, we know from a design standpoint, left to right, top to bottom, right? So if you want someone to see something in particular, like the bolding of it draws their eyes to it, you just better be sure that that's the thing you want to draw their eyes to, right? So because again, I should be able to pull out like if your skills, if you're technical, I should know what programming languages you're good at like in a couple of seconds. If I don't know that in a couple of seconds, that means I have to focus on your resume a bit longer, which means I can't talk to you, right? Because I'm actually attentively trying to figure out things on your resume. But yeah.
Victor, I really liked how it looked. It wasn't too crowded. And I know that sounds so technical, doesn't it? But it just like it was appealing to the eye. Like you weren't cramming in too much stuff there. And I liked how it was broken up. It was inviting to consume. Hey, we're at 7:54. You know, we made such a big deal at the beginning, like asking someone to like step up to the plate to share their resume, and someone did, didn't they?
Yeah. Hold on, Jackie O'Henry.
Yeah.
Please
so I say we.
I was hoping that because she had put a question on the chat, and I was hoping that we can address that. Yeah.
Okay. You want to take the chat and then.
Please forgive me if I pronounced your name incorrectly, but if you can. Go ahead and voice your question. We love to help.
You got my name right, but I guess I'll ask the question first. So like, I'm in a position where I've bounced around like different roles in IT. So I was just trying to figure out like some of the good tips to create different resumes, because obviously I'll be putting in different applications, like for example, like data scientist and business analyst, 2 different jobs. I have the experience in both, but you know, how would I create, like, kind of cater the resume for a business analyst role versus a data scientist one?
Okay.
Do you want to share your resume? Could we?
Sure. Yeah. I can go ahead and share the screen.
Yeah.
And
while you're sharing, Jaquil, that's a really good question. I have a mentee at Cox who was in a similar situation, and because there's so many cross skills or transferable skills in almost everything in IT, you guys would agree with that. There are probably some linkage between your past role, your current role, or many of the different jobs that you did. And if you can find those synergies, for lack of a better word, and blend them, that'll show the continuity between what you're doing. So data scientist and project person, they may both deal with SQL.
And I would say also, Jaquil, start with a base resume that every position that you've had, list everything that you did, the best that you did on each of them. And then that way you can use that as a base. And then as other positions come up that are emphasizing or asking for specific skills that you have, but may not be under that resume, then modify your resume for that. And then just save that to a file. Hey, I sent this to ABC company. And then that way you won't get confused and you can always go to it and be able to pull it back up. So, but just start with a base resume, okay? And just list out everything that you've done that was great, every accomplishment you did, and then and work off that base resume. That's what I would suggest.
I would also add to that, you could take a look at job opportunities that are out there that have, the data scientist specification, and then that have business analysts. Now, business analyst is going to be a little bit more varied, but for the data science specifically, you can look at what they're looking for on certain roles and put those things on your resume. So it's kind of like looking at the answers to the test a little bit. If a certain role requires, XYZ, well, build your data scientist resume around that. So you can take some of those ideas from the job descriptions that you find.
And just make sure that you can speak to it. If you've done it, you want to make sure that you can speak to it. Yeah. I can see it, but if you can't speak to it, that's going to stop the interview.
Yeah, and Jaquil, I would just add on to what Brian mentioned with saying, considering the number of jobs you had and depending on the amount of years you've been working, that's when you want the autobiography resume, because you're going to tailor it down for each job. But that way you don't have to rethink every time, okay, what did I do on that job? Have you the 4 or 5 page resume, understanding that you're going to reduce that, based on what opportunity you're seeking.
I like that. Hey, put a space between Power and BI. There you go. Looking good, man. I like how you put the expert on that knowledge. I like that. Okay.
I think you're bolding the right areas too. I mean, you're kind of drawing eyes to, the use of some of these different languages, and I actually like this a lot. It's very neat, very clean.
So, and for those of you that are online and are looking at this right now, Jaquil recently graduated with his bachelor's in August of 2020, right? So given, the space between his bachelor's degree and today's date, I would still recommend having the education at the top versus the bottom. Now, there are going to be a couple of years down the road where that education is going to definitely fall to the bottom. But I think, because he's dedicated his time and has completed his Bachelor of Science in Informatics. But I'm saying, so let me take that back, because you have your Bachelor of Science in Computer Science in 2013. So that's enough years where you can possibly move that down to the bottom now. So I'm saying you got 2 degrees.
What he's looking for. He can move it down now. He can leave it at the top, but as long as it's on there. Jaquil, get rid of the bolding. You got like ERP, 90M, Python, all that. Yeah. You don't have to. Don't take that out. Just make everything normal. Don't bold that part. All those different parts.
I didn't actually have a problem with that. And I think that might be a little bit more of a
You know what? If I were looking for somebody that had a data scientist with ERP and Python experience, then great, that's fine. And that's again like with Brandon, like, hey, it's just a personal preference, So if you're comfortable with it, fine,
I really don't care.
I'll teach you. All you have to do.
A lot of this is
like the whole thing and just say about but you're okay.
But I think overall this looks solid. I think this is something that.
There you go, Jack. Yeah, it does. It looks great. Yeah. Send it to me.
Yeah.
Send it to all of us.
Yeah. Hey, Geico. Go to Geico and then put a space in there. Take it down 1.
I was about to say go to Geico and just remove that entire section.
I was waiting for that.
That looks better. Good catch.
I love the quantifying you did as well. The 120 front end projects. 40%.
I tell you, when I see numbers like so I'm not even reading every bullet, but the metrics are jumping out to me, right? Because that means that you've given some attention to what you contributed, you quantified it, and you're able to place that on your resume. And now we may have an opportunity to talk about some of those things, but I love seeing metrics on technical resumes.
Absolutely, sure do.
Yeah, I think the bold midpoints, I think that's that's a good look. I think that helped the quick grab.
Things do pop.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Brandon. That
Jaquil, make sure I get your resume, okay?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I like that.
and I also think that the education should move
To
down.
the bottom. I agree. It should go to the bottom.
4 years of experience, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he's got enough experience that can
Yeah.
that can go first and put the education at the bottom. But as long as he's got the education, that's great.
Jaquil, you're getting real-time work right here, man.
Yeah, bro. Send me
Yeah, I'm taking notes, man. I'm trying to get it.
yeah.
Let me add something about at least CAI and our recent rounds of hiring for developers and technical people. A degree was not criteria.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's changing.
It is. Yeah.
Thank you, Google.
Yeah, it's a good looking resume. I like it a lot. I also like that you broke out, the different job titles you had. I've seen those all clumped together as well when you have different responsibilities. I like that you segmented that to make sure, someone understands all the roles you had while you were there. It's not just as, I just hate seeing that the hodgepodge things. I don't like that. And you did a good job of separating that.
Jaquil, I just put my my email in the chat. Send me your resume. And make sure you send it to Brandon.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop mine in there as well.
Yeah.
Now, I see Shanika created a LinkedIn feed with all of the panelists
Nice.
included. Jaquil, I can't be outdone though. I need to put my credentials in here as well. I'm moving on, but I still got friends in the IT space.
I'm just trying to catch you.
No, but that's awesome. Really appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing your resume. And that's what we're here for. I like to say we're family. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. This is a safe space. Nothing is leaving outside of here, to be used against you in any way. And as you've seen, Jaquil, you had the opportunity to get feedback from a few people that have experience looking at resumes all day, right? There was a question in the IMs asking about cover letters. I'm curious as to, I know my thought on cover letters, but what are your thoughts on cover letters?
I'd be lying if I said I read them. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys. So that's my thought on it. I mean, you guys chime in, but
you just peel it off.
We never receive them on the client side. We never get them from recruiters, if that means anything. So if they're coming in, they're filtered out at the vendor level. So,
well, and for me, I might actually look at it if your resume is really good. But if your resume is not it, the rest of it is kind of secondary.
I agree with Brandon. If your resume is really good and you have a very good cover letter, I will use part of your cover letter in my write-up to emphasize your expertise. But other than that, if it's not very good, nah.
And don't you think the same criteria that we've been talking about for a good, effective resume, again, crisp, bulletized,
and you have
quantified, to the point, less is more. I mean, just a couple of things. Again, you got to be able to read through the cover letter. You should probably be able to read through and literally, 7, 10
And if you
seconds
do
or
a cover letter, please know who you're writing it to. Don't do a to whom it may concern.
Yeah, no.
Don't do that. You're wasting your time.
Man, I can't do the to whom it may concern. It's not going to work now.
Yeah, don't do that.
I've seen some.
Or dear hiring manager or dear manager. If you're going to send a letter, send it to somebody specifically. You know who you are sending it to, and you can direct it to them, and then you can follow up with them. Hi, Mr. Verrett, I sent you a letter along with my resume. Did you have an opportunity to review it? You know, so you're sending it to somebody who you know who they are, what their position is, and you've got a way to contact that person. But don't ever send a letter out to whom it may concern. You're wasting your time.
And Cal, I think you're about to state something.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say I've seen some places where they've had a spot to upload resume and a spot to upload cover letter. So
Yeah,
to me, it was like maybe they were looking for it, and if you didn't put a cover letter, maybe they would ignore you.
Yeah, and I was just going to reference that because I do know some places that require you to upload a cover letter. So yes, for those places that require it, definitely have one on hand. You know, some of us are a little slower to the futuristic change. So you definitely want to ensure that you're ready no matter what. I would think you're on a safe side, you know, just given the number of organizations, if you happen to not have had one. But definitely, if you see that you're going through an application process and they're requiring your cover letter, definitely provide it at that point. Because again, you don't want that door to be closed just because you didn't have it.
Yeah,
And they're using it as a
required, but it was like listed as an option. So
if it's optional, then I probably would option out.
You have to remember too, if it's optional, there's also additional space to maybe make a mistake. So if you don't have to, it could be a less is more type situation. Because if, let's say, you're not paying attention to your grammar, or you have something there that's not perfect, now they got a little bit more ammunition to maybe, you know. So that's just my thought on that.
And you may be more than qualified for the role, but if English isn't your first language, then sometimes when you write it, it may not come across well. You know what I'm saying? So that's a way, sometimes companies use that as a way to weed you out. Whenever you are applying online, I mean, that's fine. I mean, if that's the only option you have, do it. What I would recommend you do is, before you do that, is to look in your circle of influence to see if you know anybody that works at that particular company, and try to find somebody specifically to send it to. When you put it online, it's just going to a portal.
Yeah.
And depending on the company, how closely they monitor it or whatever, sometimes they'll just use it. Yes, we got so many responses, for this job or whatever. But depending on how actively they monitor it, sometimes that could be a black hole. Whenever possible, try to find out who you are sending it to, and try to have someone that you can talk to.
Yeah,
it's
and
really people business.
I think the cover letter has fallen into the same black hole as objective. Yep. Most people are copying and pasting those, right? So they all begin to sound exactly the same. Yeah. So it's just a waste of good
energy. You can't tailor it, right?
They all look and sound the same. So it's like, okay, just get rid of that. And really, every cover letter I've gotten, with the exception of one, I've swiped off to the side. I'm like, I don't need that. I'll just look at the resume. I don't need the cover letter. It's just taking up stuff that I can transport.
The exact same thing. That's one more page I got to get rid of.
One more page you gotta go and put it in a recycle thing that's secured. It's like, I don't need that.
And this is the shameless plug for the interview best practices session. When you send your thank you note, so many people send, they all look alike as well, and they should not. I mean, that's a point in time where you should be able to pull something from that interview, that discussion, to make that thank you note stand out.
Great, John. That's a great point.
So you don't want to be lazy there and just do a copy and paste.
What's a good summary of what you guys discussed in the interview, right?
Yeah, because not only this, so for instance, Brian and I, we chatted. I understand where he's from, right? So I'm going to send him a thank you note and say, thanks for an amazing interview, blah, blah, blah. Really looking forward to joining your organization. If there are any additional questions you need, for me to answer, definitely feel free to contact. Looking forward to us potentially having an opportunity to catch a Bulls game, right? Or something like that. Something that's personable, that shows, hey, I was paying attention. Like I do know more than just the general things I can copy from online to say thank you. And just again, making it personable to show that, man, you can see me working with you, right? Whatever that may be.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Okay, we're 10 after 8 here. That went fast, didn't it?
It went
Wow,
really
that
fast.
was fun.
Okay.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We're here, so if there's follow-on questions, if you didn't want to put your question in chat or unmute and ask the question, feel free to email any of us, connect with us on LinkedIn. We're happy to help. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
We're here every third Wednesday.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Yes, appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys. This was fun.
Yeah.
So with that, definitely appreciate not only our panelists, but our guests who joined as well. We can't do this without you, right? So we appreciate Matrix stepping up and answering the call when we identified the need to be able to schedule events such as this. So we definitely wouldn't be in a position to impact our membership and community in the way that we're doing today without the assistance of Matrix. So a nice hand clap for Matrix. And definitely, if you are looking for IT opportunities, I endorse you contacting our Matrix representatives and sharing your information with them. As you can see, not only will they look out for you and introduce you to community organizations, but if your resume is not on point, they're going to assist you with that as well. They're going to get you right. So I definitely encourage you to engage Matrix resources. They've been a pillar in the BDPA community, and we appreciate everything they do. I would also like to thank one of our major contributors, State Farm Insurance. They've, of course, been with BDPA since I've been here in Atlanta, which is going on about 7 years now. And they've always stepped up financially as well as opening up their facilities to us pre-pandemics. So, and the way that we're hosting this Zoom call is because of their financial contributions. So we definitely appreciate State Farm. If you're looking for opportunities, statefarm.com/careers. You can go there and you can see all the current openings. If you do find something and you need an advocate, feel free to reach out to me. You can get me on LinkedIn. And I know Shanika provided various avenues via BDPA that you can contact me as well. With that, before we close down the meeting and I do my final shout outs and Shanika jumps in, I wanted to see, are there any more questions from those that joined us online? Again, thank you all for participating. Jakil, thank you for sharing your resume. You don't understand how big that was for us, and hopefully that makes others comfortable in the future to share their LinkedIn profile. Share your LinkedIn profile with us and let us go over it. If you send it early, we may be able to do some pre-work, so definitely get with us. So with that, any additional questions, anybody can unmute, give feedback, give questions. We're very thick-skinned, so if there's something you felt could have went better, definitely share that with us. And don't be shy.
And I'll take this little moment of silence to say from all of us on here, Victor, congratulations on your promotion.
Hey, congrats. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Yep. Congratulations, Victor.
What are you going to be doing since we're family on this thing? Tell us about your new role.
So it should be delivered pretty soon on our State Farm portal. So my State Farm people, if you will keep it close to the chest until tomorrow, it'll be shared tomorrow. But I will be moving into our IT audit space as a director, and IT audit focusing on enhancing or modernizing our use of technology in our audit space. So getting rid of some of the manual processes, or helping to mature, let me not use the word getting rid of, helping to mature some of the manual processes and taking advantage of some automation that's out there.
Awesome. Congratulations, man.
It's great.
That's great.
All righty. Shanika, I will hand it over to you. Oh, Shanika don't have anything further to share. So awesome. So Brian, Ed, Brandon, Susie, we thank you for the time you've given us. Definitely connect with BDPA on his various social channels. We will now release everyone back to their day job at home. And again, catch us on third Wednesdays, 6:30 to about 8:15-ish. The next meeting will be focused on your LinkedIn profile. Appreciate you all joining us. Have a great day.
Have a great day,
Thanks
everybody.
again, everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.